If you've ever played video games, you probably had that moment when you decided to use a cheat code just to see what happens. Maybe you played The Sims, Harvest Moon, or some auto battle type games. And the cheat code we all secretly loved? Unlimited money. Turn that on, and suddenly your character can buy anything. Mansions, cars, even the weirdest decorations you didn't need, but hey, who cares? You're rich. And admit it, while playing, you probably had that little thought in the back of your mind. Man, wouldn't it be nice if life had a cheat code like this? If I could just press a button and boom, unlimited money forever. Well, today's story is about a guy who did exactly that. No joke, he discovered what looked like a real-life cheat code for infinite money. He literally pulled cash out of an ATM with no balance. He spent millions, partied on private jets, even rented an entire private island in Bali, Indonesia. Sounds like a movie, right? But nope, this happened. Before we dive in, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and share this video with your friends who love creepy true stories. Because this one is wild. All right, let's get into it. The year was 2011. A man named Dan Saunders, 29 years old, was living in Australia. One night in February, Dan was out drinking with his friends in his small hometown of Wangaratta, which honestly sounds more like the name of a Pokemon. Anyway, by the end of the night, the group decided to split the bill. Dan reaches for his wallet and realizes, uh-oh, not enough cash. Oops, embarrassing moment. But no problem, right? There's an ATM right next to the bar. He stumbles over, pops his card in, types his PIN, tries to withdraw some cash, and then, uh-oh, the screen flashes, insufficient funds. Dan starts sweating, not just from the booze. His account, completely empty. Even worse, his credit card, maxed out. Double whammy. Now imagine this, you're drunk, broke, and you still need to pay your bar tab. That's the kind of panic that makes you consider selling a kidney on Craigslist. But Dan, he wasn't the type to give up. He decides to push some buttons, just to see what happens. He tries transferring $200 from his maxed out credit card to his bank account. Denied. Transaction canceled. But then, on a whim, he puts his ATM card back in, punches a few buttons, and tries to withdraw $200 anyway. And this is where things get strange. The machine spits out the cash. Dan just stares at the bills in his hand, like he pulled a rabbit out of a hat. Remember, his account had $0, and yet, here he was, holding $200. He was confused, sure, but also drunk. And when you're drunk and confused, logic doesn't really matter. All he knew was he now had money to pay the bar bill. Problem solved. But later that night, around 2 a.m., curiosity hits him again. He stumbles back to the ATM, tries the same thing, and once again, cash. Another $200. Am I drunk, or is the ATM drunk? Because either way, someone here isn't making sense. So naturally, he pushes it further. He tries $500, and boom, the machine spits it out. Now he's standing there with $700 cash he shouldn't even have. By the time he's done testing, he's got about $2,000. He goes home, convinced he must be dreaming, but the next morning, hungover, sober, smelling like beer, the money is still there. And that's when Dan realizes, I just discovered a real-life cheat code, confirming the glitch. Still suspicious, Dan calls his bank. He expects them to say his account is a disaster, maxed out, overdrawn, maybe even frozen. But instead, the rep calmly tells him, "Your account looks completely normal, sir. No suspicious activity." Wait, what? He had literally pulled $2,000 out of thin air. Yet according to the bank, nothing happened. This is like robbing a store, calling the manager the next day to confess, and the manager saying, "Robbery? No, man. Everything looks fine here." Dan hangs up with the biggest grin of his life. He just unlocked free money mode. That night, he tests it again. Nothing. The trick doesn't work. But later, around 1 a.m., bingo. The ATM spits out cash again, like a slot machine on a lucky streak. That's when he pieces it together. Between 1 and 3 a.m., the ATM slips into some weird maintenance mode. And during that window, he could exploit it, withdraw money, and the system never recorded it. He had basically found a portal to infinite money. And oh, he used it a lot. Over the next 4 months, Dan pulls out not just hundreds, not just thousands, but about 1.6 million Australian dollars. That's roughly 24 million US dollars. At first, he's responsible, paying off debts, helping family, buying his fiancée nice gifts. But then it spirals. He starts flying friends to France on vacation, throws huge parties, buying drinks for entire bars, pays off strangers' debts, even buys a house for a homeless guy he just met. And then he goes full GTA mode. Private jets, yachts, luxury hotels, celebrity chefs, and yes, even rents an entire private island in Bali just to party. Imagine scrolling Instagram and seeing your bartender buddy suddenly flexing from a private island. His friends were like, "Bro, you make cocktails for a living. How the hell are you affording this?" Dan's cover story, "Oh, real estate." Classic, because nothing says totally normal like bartender turned millionaire mogul overnight. But here's the twist. Even while he lived like a king, Dan wasn't happy. Every single day, paranoia chewed at him. He'd check his bank statements over and over, expecting the glitch to finally show up. He'd call customer service just to hear, "Everything's normal, sir." But deep down, he knew it couldn't last forever. He pictured cops busting into his hotel at 3 a.m. He pictured being dragged out in handcuffs, still wearing a silk Versace bathrobe. For 4 months, he partied like a billionaire, but inside, he was suffocating. Until finally, he cracked. 4 months. 4 months of endless parties, private jets, private islands, but also 4 months of living in paranoia. Finally, Dan broke. One night, sitting alone in a bar, he drank and cried. He knew his time was up. And Dan did something almost no one in his position would ever do. At first, the police didn't believe him. A bartender claiming he stole $1.6 million with an ATM glitch? It sounded like a comedy movie. But when they opened the transaction records, everything was there. Dan was tried, sentenced to 12 months in prison, plus 18 months on probation. And from all that money, he didn't get to keep a single cent. It was all gone. When he got out, Dan was no longer a millionaire, no longer the king of parties. He went back to being an ordinary man, working at a bar, living a simple life. And even though his story made him famous, deep inside, he was still haunted by guilt. A little bit faster. This story teaches us something. Sometimes, what you think will make your life perfect can actually turn into poison. Having unlimited money, without effort, without limits, won't make you happy. It can make you lose your way. If you were given the chance to use this cheat today, would you take it? Or would you realize that it's the struggles, the hard work, and the uncertainty that make life feel real? Write your answer in the comments. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. See you again in the next story. And hey, never trust an ATM at midnight.